Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. My name is Lex and I would greatly appreciate it if you want to support me or support the channel if you would consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It really helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. We are on the road to 10K. I am so excited. I definitely think that we can make it there by the end of this year. It is March, so we have plenty of time, but it really does help and support. And honestly, y'all, I love creating content, but I feel like sometimes behind the scenes, people do not know how much time it really does take us as content creators to do these videos. I know, like, I put out a video probably almost every day now. I feel like I've been on my Zoom with these videos lately since I feel better a little bit. But these videos take anywhere between 5 to 10 hours of the day between the editing, the note taking, the watching, and the recording part. So I love doing this, but I really appreciate the support. Even just a little bit of a like, it all helps YouTube's algorithm to know that people are interacting. Now, we are going to be doing Love is Blind Sweden. Y'all have begged me last season to do this, and I just didn't because I ain't gonna hold you. Sometimes after Love is Blind, I'm just ready to be done. I know I said I was going to do a last impressions of season 8 of US. I don't think I'm going to do that anymore. Sorry, guys. I think I'm just done with that. I also know Ben released receipts. I may or may not make a video where we just watch those quickly and give reaction, but I think I'm kind of wrapping up season 8 of Love is Blind US. But also, I got some requests to do after the altar of the recent season 1 of Sweden. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it, so therefore watching after the altar is not going to give much. But we are going to do Sweden season 2 that has just dropped. New episodes are dropping Thursday. This is going to be episodes 1 and 2. And as I've always said, I have not seen 3 and 4 yet, so please do not put spoilers in the comments. Also, if you speak Swedish, is that what they speak over there? If you speak Swedish and there's something that got lost in translation for me, please let me know in the comments. Just like with Germany, you guys let me know sometimes if there was something that just got lost in the subtitles or in the voiceovers. So let me know. Okay, this was a very long-winded introduction. Let's get into episode 1. Alrighty, so the pods are open, and let me tell you, we are naming this video double dipping all the time because baby, F-boys transcend language, culture, everything. There are certain people that from the get, I was like, oh, he's about to be trouble. We are first introduced to Carolina. She is 38.
In the near future?
I mean, I don't want to be like 50 when I have children.
No, I get it.
I've kind of made up my mind that, well, I might not have children or...
She really does want kids. She wants a family. This has always been something big for her, but she does understand that women have a biological clock. And for her, she has even came to terms in her life. So she claims that maybe she wouldn't have kids. Maybe this wouldn't be it for her. But she starts sobbing in this confessional. And it's very clear that even though she's made herself be okay with it, she does really realize that she actually does want that life for herself. And I just hate as women, I definitely understand the biological clock. I definitely know that obviously the older you get, it is more high risk, it is more challenging, but I really do hate as women that we get to certain ages and feel like it is completely and totally over, especially when it comes to things like having kids and having a family. I just think 38 is not the end of the world. A lot of women are having children older, so I did feel very bad for her. So Carolina's first match is Jakob.
All right.
But I got really tired of it, so I'm studying digital marketing now.
Awesome.
And yeah, I'm also running my own dance.
And baby, this man Jakob, oh Lord, he is a menace. He's a menace. From episode 1, I knew this man was about to be a menace. So he is Carolina, was a store manager for a while, but now she is in marketing and she runs her own dance studio. So Jakob's really into this because he's a VP. He's a business oriented guy. So they click on that almost immediately. Now for Jakob, he has everything he wants. Great family, great job, great life, the house, the money, but he doesn't have someone to share it with. So for him, he is longing to start his own family as well. And for the right person, he claims he would be ready tomorrow. So as you know, for Carolina, she is loving it. It is music to her ears. And already on this first conversation, that connection is there. Jakob, we are introduced to him already. And honestly, a man is an F-boy when he says he's a catch, he's great, but he's done the work to work on himself. So
I'd white in my soul, and I always have a little surprise. So I just have to ask you about something. I have a deal.
He thinks at this point he is the perfect package and all he needs to find is that person that gets inside. He says he's like a Kinder egg where he's dark inside on the outside but white on the inside. And I was like, And then he talks about having a surprise inside. Let me know if that got mistranslated because I was like, Is that really what he said? But he is very allergic to furry animals. We get this montage of him telling multiple girls that he's allergic to furry animals. They all talk about how they have cats, dogs, etc. He says that he can't be near furry animals. It was to the point where he had to go to the ER supposedly because he walked by somebody with a cat. Now, I do know people with severe animal allergies. I've never heard of something like that. I'm not saying he's lying. But again, this man, Jakob, he just seems like he's always exaggerating. He's always bringing it to the top, okay? So, anyways, Jakob's second connection is with Emily. So immediately they hit it off with each other's joyful energy. They're both pretty light, free-spirited, and that's just a breath of fresh air for the two of them.
Boxes and check marks and tick them all off together.
I know, right? I totally agree.
I would really, really, really like to talk to you.
Now for him, he does feel like you can really affect your mindset with a positive... You can affect the outcome of your life with a positive mindset. He really is into the mindfulness, and we learn later maybe he's had a bit of a darker past. So, okay, I can see why he would feel that way. Now, he immediately jumps into that deal breaker, which is that he is allergic to furry animals. And she says, no problem. I don't care. I don't need a dog. That's not even something in my life that I was looking for. So, again, hit it off. It is great between the two of them, and he walks out. And so far, Jakob's two sort of picks are Emily and Carolina. Now we are introduced to Ola.
Depending on if you're ready or not. But, where do you live? I'm a small town girl, you know.
Oh, that's lovely.
And Millie. Ola is another one, baby. I don't like Ola. If you watch Love is Blind Germany, he reminds me a lot of, what was that guy who was with Jen, the one who was not attracted to her, who was also like a spirituality yoga retreat guy, and he acted like he was introverted, but in reality, he just didn't like her. Yeah, he reminds me of her. Ola, he's 42 years old, I believe, and he's also very into the spiritual. So immediately, Millie and Ola, they realize they have a 10-year age gap. He is 32 and she is 42. There's a lot of silence there, but then Millie says that she does not consider age to be a big factor because everyone has their own path and everybody gets things done in different times. For her, she is a small town girl. She loves to be near horses. She loves to be near greenery. So for him, of course, he loves that because he is definitely one of those spiritual woo-woo guys. I'm not saying if you're into spiritual stuff, you're woo-woo, but he is a spiritual woo-woo guy. Okay, he believes in holding up a crystal to your heart and shaking and stuff. Oh, child. In the next episodes, it gets crazy. He lives outside Stockholm, so for him, that is really, again, they connect there. So Ola says that he basically was on a 6-month sabbatical from his job that has now been extended to over a year. And at this point, he realizes that he wants to let go of all of the things in his life that bring him trouble. Coffee, alcohol, and he also says working. And I'm like, oh, okay. It takes a very certain type of person that has a certain type of privilege, and I have no idea what his prior job was. Maybe he has a lot of money. Maybe he has a lot of money in the bank. Maybe his family's rich. But again, it takes a very certain amount of privilege, and I also think it takes a very pretentious type of person to feel this way. Now, Millie is a little bit like, okay, I see you. You can definitely tell that for her, the wheels are turning, and they would be turning for me as well. If a man shows up and says, hey, I don't work, I just gave it up. Again, what is the financial situation? So for him, he was never ready for love, even though he was in 2 long-term relationships. What does that mean? When people say stuff like that, I'm like, what does that mean? So y'all sat and wasted people's time for 2 years? What do you mean you were never ready for love? Then why were you in 2 long-term relationships? Sir, you are 42 years old and you are saying some stuff that is really starting to make me mad. Okay, this 42-year-old man be playing around with people, let me tell you. So For him, he says he's not looking for love, but rather to share his love with someone else. And that's when Millie starts to come back around and she's like, oh my God, I love that. I'm whole by myself, so I want to share that with somebody. I don't necessarily need love to complete my lifestyle. So Millie does admit in her confessional that she is looking for a stable man who can be her rock, who she can lean on. So right now, the verdict is out on whether Ola is actually that person or not. So next up, we are introduced to Oscar, and he also connects with Millie.
I'm used to always being with someone.
I haven't had good experiences with Geminis.
Okay, but are you thinking of the zodiac sign now or biologically?
I was
So Oscar and Millie, they have this very weird conversation in the beginning. She says she's a Gemini, but she also has a twin sister. And Oscar's just very, very confused. He does not know what she's saying. At first, he thinks that she's being metaphorical, I believe, by saying, oh, I have a twin because I'm a Gemini, because Gemini, the sign is a twin. But she's like, no, I literally have a twin sister. It's really, really weird. But Millie gets into how she's a horse girl, sort of a hillbilly. And he's like, oh, so you're a geek? And she's like, no, not really. So he starts to mock the way she talks. He's like, I could tell that you were a hillbilly. And she's like, I'm gonna be honest, I don't really like your poking. I don't really like the way that you're mocking me and joking around. And Oscar gets out and he's like, oh my gosh. We actually get a montage of him talking about how he never makes a good first impression. He always will say the wrong things. He makes jokes that don't land. And I'm like, oh, this poor guy. Because I don't know, at least to me, it wasn't giving malicious. It really does give that Oscar's one of those people that's a little, he's not very self-aware. He's not very self-aware of the things he's saying. So Oscar's other match is Alicia.
basically, I'm very calm, but I can be socially awkward sometimes.
What? That's
Yeah,
fun.
especially the first time I meet someone, I can be clumsy.
So Alicia, she loves being surrounded people, going out, and Oscar likes that. He is a calm person. He's a bit socially awkward, and he can be clumsy and embarrass himself. So off the front, he's loading that. I don't make a good first impression. I do feel like sometimes though, when you get that stuff in your head, like I'm clumsy, I'm weird, I'm awkward, you start to act more awkward. And this is coming from me, somebody who had social anxiety. Maybe you can't really tell from these videos. Maybe you can. I don't know. But when I would get into my head that I'm socially anxious, I'm weird, I don't fit in with the crowd, I feel like it made me try to act normal and then I would act weird. So I think for him, he latches onto that really heavily and then it might make him actually act weirder than he really is. But Alicia, nonetheless, she does not really care that Oscar says he has all these different things going on because Alicia finds him very charming. He continues to explain that to meet a second time, he has to fight because it never goes well. He always has to fight for that second date because the girls are always like, I think Oscar is the type of person who he has to find his queen, okay? To me, he comes off kind of sweet. I definitely could tell that he probably sometimes says the wrong thing at the wrong time, which I'm not accepting per se. But I think he's a sweet guy that just needs to find the woman that's on that same vibe with him. I don't think everybody's gonna get it, but when he finds that person that clicks with kind of his quirkiness and his humor, I could see it for him. But overall, Oscar and Alicia, they do decide that they would like to see each other again. So far, Oscar, he is connecting with Millie and Alicia. Now, Alicia has a second match in Tim. Tim describes himself as energetic, fun, a lot. He's very lively. And Alicia is looking for somebody who has an active lifestyle, so there they might be able to click.
That sounds wonderful.
Yeah,
What do you do to relax?
I like hunting and fishing.
That's cool. My dad hunts as well.
Oh, yeah? I get
what
extra
I-
points with him.
Now, for him, he relaxes by hunting, fishing, and Alicia's like, love that. My dad hunts. Then they connect on the fact that he has a dog for hunting. He checks off a lot of the boxes, but it's definitely not giving that he's a man that settles down easily. It's definitely not giving that he's a guy that's very decisive, at least to me, just based off the first few conversations. Now, her definition of love is security, living together, basically living as a team, marrying your best friend, having this best friend that you are attracted to. And for him, he loves that bit because, again, he typically says, I am looking for a best friend that turns me on. So initial attraction is there. Surface level attraction is there. Will there be a deeper connection? We have yet to see. So we are introduced to a new couple, Victor and Natalie. So
Share a lot with each other.
That makes me really happy. Apparently it's not that common to be close to your siblings.
Okay, well,
Natalie, she works with ceramics, wheel throwing. She has a candle business. She is somebody that's very, very creative. Whereas Victor, he is planning to listen, okay? That's the biggest thing. Listen, listen, listen. He said he got a lot of advice from his sister on how to treat women. Child, y'all already know if you watch Love is Blind US, sisters and it's not good. It's not good right now. But he says his sister told him to listen, listen, listen. So that's what he's gonna do. So for Victor, he loves being outside. He's taken swing dancing classes with his mom. He's very active. He's also very, very close with his family. And he says that his sister is his best friend. And again, y'all, I'm just triggered because I cannot hear about a man being extra close with his sister anymore. It's just too much for me. Now for her, she totally relates to that because her older sister is her best friend. And she's like, I don't know though. I guess it's real weird for people to be close to their siblings because whenever I tell people I'm really close with my sister, they're like, that's weird. And I'm like, is it? Maybe it's Sweden, but I don't know. I feel like at least here in the US, being close to your siblings is not that abnormal. I think, yes, I have a wide range of people in my life. I have some friends who are really close with their siblings. I consider myself to be pretty close with my sister, but I do have friends who where like they might see their sibling once a year at Christmas. So I don't know. I just found that interesting that that's something that people tend to tell her is weird. I don't know. Now, Natalie loves the fact that Victor's sister gave all this advice. She loves that he found out how to actually treat a woman. And I just don't know, y'all. I always find it strange, this concept of like men needing some kind of female in their life to tell them how to treat women. Like it always just gives me a weird connotation. I don't know. Now, for her, she is a combination of an introvert and an extrovert, and she loves to listen to people talk in general. For him, he absolutely loves that because he is looking for someone that is a combination of humble, but can also be outgoing and fit in social situations. So, next up, we are introduced to Karen and Niklas.
To throw myself out there.
Hello?
Oh, hey! God, you scared me.
Sorry. Hey.
Hey, who am I talking to?
So Karen wants a family, but she does want the right person to share that journey and connect with. Now for him, he wants someone that he can share life with. They're both 35, so they're kind of in this place where they're both kind of the last of their friends to get married, have kids, be single. So they do relate on that point. I mean, again, to me, I'm always like, if you genuinely want a life, a family, etc., cool. But if your only reasoning is because you see everybody else doing it and you feel like you should be doing it, are you really in it for the right reasons? That's always my initial question. So we get a montage of Niklas. He used to be in sales, but he quit to be an actor. He loves to golf. He wants to travel around in a van. He wants someone spontaneous like him. Again, these kind of fly by the seat of their pants type of people always give me pause because it always comes with a side of pretentiousness, but what do I know? So the next day, Ola is in the men's lounge showing the crystals that he sleeps around. One of the producers is like, oh, can you hold it up for a second? And he's like, I don't think I can. It doesn't want to do it right now. And I'm like, Ola, I'm gonna need you to stop, bro. I would need Ola to stop it because he about to make me mad. So Millie and Ola, they have another date. He's holding this rock up to his hand. He's like, what can I do for you? And Millie's like, oh, you say a lot. Is that your way of humming or thinking? What is that? So they talk about if they could be an animal, what would it be? For him, he would be an elephant because he's very family oriented. He gets to how he's been to Tanzania and loves animals, and he still would like to travel. Now, they both get into how they are the type that like to do activities on vacation rather than just sitting and laying on a beach. I kind of relate to that. I think with vacations, I like having maybe 1 day, 2 days to do nothing and then doing activities because at least to me, if I'm gonna pay thousands for a vacation just to lay down. But so I kind of understood that. Now, Ola gets into how he really likes balance. He likes being draped in the spiritual, but also being cool at work. He likes going to the gym, but also being able to eat candy. So Whew, child. This is where things start to get a little weird. So Millie discusses how she's actually never been into the gym before. She starts to make these jokes about how her body's made out of Cocoa Puffs and jam. She talks about eating candy, and Ola's like, oh, I never eat candy. That's not really for me. And you can tell on Ola's face, he's not really feeling her. In retrospect, thinking about this further, I think he started to get an idea that maybe she was a little bit bigger. Also, my husband mentioned this too. I think he started to get an idea that maybe she was a little bit bigger than he was into. So I don't know. I think that was just something that started to scare him, that maybe physically he was not going to be attracted to her. She talks about how she loves drinking Coke and red wine and watching Housewives. And Ola's just like, I ain't gonna hold you though. She was kind of saying some stuff where I was like, girl, relax, okay? So in the confessional, Ola says that he really does find Millie very attractive, that someone like her could really bring out the lighthearted side in him and get him away from this rigidness. He says that he is a very restrictive person, but maybe it's time to find somebody that can actually help him to break out of that shell. Now, Millie, she is really intrigued by meeting a man who is smarter than her, and she does feel like Ola could be that person. He is older, he maybe has been through the journey. So for her, that's very, very interesting. Now, she does say that Ola is much different than what he's used to, and she is concerned that he might be one of those yoga weirdos. And I was like, oh boy. I don't know. For me, Ola just gives a very strong air of pretentiousness. He gives that he's allowed to explore himself, his journey, his everything, but it really gives that the spotlight's on him. The spotlight is on the life he wants to have. And again, I ask, when you're so focused on this inner work, where does someone else fit in? Where does their journey fit in? And where does the compromise fit in? Because I think a lot of people who go on these like spiritual journeys are so focused on their path and what they found that works for them. But part of life, at least with others, is still compromise. So I don't know about Ola. Scratch Ola down on the notepad with Jakob. Anyway, Jakob has both Emily and Carolina as his top. Right now, he does feel that Carolina is most ready for the life that he claims he wants, which is kids. Again, he said tomorrow he's ready for the right person. So Jakob and Emily. Emily is asking for a better picture of Jakob. She wants to get to know him a little more. Why are you the way you are? Now, he does discuss that he is willing to say. He starts to talk about how life has been really, really difficult for him. And then he gets very vulnerable.
Affected me a lot in life. It was a really difficult time in my life where I lost everything.
Basically says that when he was 15, he got caught up in the wrong crowd. Things started to get crazy and spiraled, and he started using drugs. And that is when he lost everything. I did find it interesting because he said he was 15 and he lost everything. So I don't know quite what that means. Did he go to jail or whatever the equivalent they have for kids is in Sweden? Did he get kicked out of his house? Really, what happened? Now for him, he didn't want to scare off Emily by saying this. He really does hope that she's going to be accepting of it all. For Emily, she's chill. Right now, she says, this is your story and you shared it with me. So I respect that. I'm not going to look at it in any type of way. For him, he does say that since that time, he has not touched any drugs anymore. And Emily's like, but am I your number one? Like, am I? And she said for her, he said he has never moved. He says that he has never moved from having Emily as his number one. I think with this kind of story, I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. If someone told me when they were 15 that they used drugs and they've never used them again, at least for me, I don't think I would think anything of it. So it doesn't really bother me all that much that Emily didn't seem to have more questions about it. But pay attention to how Jakob says Emily has never moved from being his number one. Pay attention to that. Okay, so now Jakob has his date with Carolina. So Carolina, she comes in a little bit of a bad mood. She notices that and asks what happened. And she talks about how she had a date before where she shared something very personal to herself and it just didn't really go well. So she gets into how in previous relationships, she didn't really feel seen. Her previous partner didn't even celebrate her birthday. So it's been very, very tough for her to feel like even in her longest term relationship that she didn't really mean much to her partner. So for Jakob, he says, hey, look, your birthday is going to be the the biggest, most spectacular day out there because I love my own birthday. So why would I not celebrate yours? She gets very, very emotional. And again, he talks about how he wants to share in their date tomorrow something big that he's had to say. Now, she reassures him, look, you don't have to feel pressured to share. But he says, hey, we're about to get married in a few weeks. So I want to. She's like, wait, you and I? The two of us are about to get married? And he says, yeah. I mean, if that's what you want. But 5 seconds ago, you were telling Emily that she's the number one and that has never moved. Baby, Jakob is an F-boy. So back in the pods, Carolina, she is keeping her relationship with Jakob quiet. She does talk about with the girls how she has a little bit of something going on, but she doesn't say a specific name because for her, usually she gets very, very possessive with new partners. She becomes like an animal. So she just wants to wait it out and hold off. So Alicia and Oscar. So Oscar talks a lot about how his family never really talked about things growing up. They kind of just swept things under the rug. So for him, he's been in therapy. He's really made it a goal to grow from different things, realize his flaws. He seems to have done a lot of inner work. So he really, really loves that she tends to take the lead on talking about emotions, talking about feelings. He says he needs a partner that is going to be willing to do that for him. Red flag. Didn't like that. It shouldn't have to be on your partner to be the one to pull feelings out of you and lead the emotional conversations. I don't really think that's fair. So didn't really like that. Now, Alicia doesn't seem to think much of it right now, but she is flattered that he says these different things and doesn't expect anything in return. He talks about how he wants a partner that challenges him because previous girlfriends haven't, I presume, to talk about the tough subjects. But again, it's very weird to me how he's putting it all on Alicia, that she needs to be the one to do the emotional legwork. I just don't really like that. So Tim and Alicia, he was really worried that she would not want to see him again. He said he has been thinking about her every single day because they both described what they're attracted to, which is a best friend that they like, a best friend that they're attracted to. So Alicia's cheesing ear to ear. We don't get much progression in their relationship, but again, they just reiterate that they seemingly are looking for the same thing. Meanwhile, we get a confessional or the pod scene of Nicholas talking about how he is struggling who to pick. For him, he's used to controlling the process. Right now, we get a montage of him talking to multiple women. He still has over 5 women, but he realizes today that he does need to cut it down to continue in this process and actually whittle it down to 1 or 2 people. And I'm like, whoa, you are so far in and you could not pick. Red flag. Red flag. You should at least be able to whittle it down to 1 to 2 people. So for me, again, this man just seems like he can't be very decisive. It's worrisome. So Nicholas is talking to Karen. He is trying to figure out what kind of person she is looking for because he's trying to figure out which person is actually his person. Now for Karen, she is looking for somebody who puts the same effort in that she puts in a relationship. Fair enough. And she means both in the emotional, but also the project manager role. And I love that she said that because I think oftentimes there's this idea in a relationship that one person is the project manager, the cooker, the cleaner, all of these different things, also the emotional response. And I think for Karen, she wants that to be more balanced. And I like that she mentioned it and put it that way. So he understands, but he does say that he may not always be very calm due to his ADHD. So he also talks about how he can be a bit disorganized and he's also driven by emotions. And I'm like, look, hey, I know plenty of people with ADHD. You can live a normal life with ADHD and you can be chill. But to me, it sounds like this man is very dysregulated. It doesn't sound like he tries very hard to be stable. I mean, to me, what he said basically gave, I'm unstable, I'm impulsive. And it almost felt like he was hiding it under the guise of having ADHD, to me. Maybe I'm reaching for the stars there, but that's just at least what it was giving. I feel like he mentioned the ADHD preemptively to try to have it be an excuse for why he acts the way he acts. But he claims that he is a great lover and he will show that even though he's not good at structure. Sir, you are a grown man. You are a grown man. You cannot be coming to a potential partner and be like, I'm bad with structure. I'm emotionally charged. I'm disorganized. I lead with emotions. Sir, who is supposed to want to be with somebody? Like, just keeping it real. So Karen is wondering, okay, is there anything that I can really do to make that whole thing easier for you? Now, for him, he never really thought about it because he hasn't been in a relationship for 5 years. So he just has to think that through a little bit more. I don't know. Gotta be honest, Nicholas doesn't really give me a good feeling. So back in the confessional, Karen does say she has a good feeling about Nicholas, but she is definitely starting to realize that they have different personalities. Yeah, it's definitely giving she's type A and he's probably a type B personality where he's all over the place. And for her, the most important thing is safety, stability, and someone that she can rely on in that way. So she kind of left this date with a pretty bad gut feeling, and she is unsure of how she feels. And girl, listen to your gut, because when I was listening to him, I also got a weird gut feeling, and I'm not even in the pods talking to him. I just feel like he is preemptively letting you know that he's a mess and trying to blame it on his ADHD, which I wasn't vibing with that personally. So Carolina, meanwhile, is talking about how she's really on Jakob. She feels really, really good about him, but she does remember that he has some big secret that he's about to share. She's telling that to the girls in the pods as they get to their date. So Jakob and Carolina. He starts to share and informs her that she is the first one that knew this in this much detail. And again, you gotta listen to people's words. Because when he said, you are the first one to know this in this much detail, sure, he's technically telling the truth, but he didn't say you are the first one to know this. He just said you are the first one to know in this much detail. But he probably knew very well that she was going to interpret that as her being the first girl to know. Okay. So he talks about how he has the best parents in the world. Everything is great. One day he took a taxi and the taxi driver put a knife to his face. So he ran into this person again and he punched them in the face, and then he ran into the woods after that happened. Carolina, as she's hearing the story, is like, oh my God, you're so brave. Oh my, he's like, hold on. It started to spiral when I got in with the wrong crowd. And when I was 15, I ended up in the hospital. And at that point, my maternal grandmother, she came up to me and said, look, I have battled breast cancer in both breasts. Your family, everyone here, you've put us all through this with your drug use, and this is not going to work anymore. So figure it out, basically. So for me, I'm going to keep it a stack. Jakob's story does not really make sense to me. I understand that there's maybe parts he wants to leave out. I'm trying to figure out how we got from a guy pulled a knife out and you ran into the woods to then you ended up in the hospital on drugs. I'm just keeping it real. The story sounds a little bit off, but either way, Carolina, she's crying. She says, look, I feel so honored you wanted to share this with me. It does not change my opinion of you. I'm not looking at you any differently. And then she tells him, hey, you've always been my number one. And he reciprocates by saying that she has always been his number one. And that has never changed. And I'm like, wow. Wow, wow, wow. All right. So back in the pods, Carolina is telling the girls that she and Jakob both reassured each other that they're each other's number ones, that he told this story about that he doesn't typically tell other girls in months. One thing I forgot to mention in the Emily scene is that he mentioned that he usually tells this story to girls in 1, 2, 3 months, 5, 6, 7 months, however many months. He doesn't usually tell it this early. And he said that same statement to both Emily and Carolina. So Emily, when she hears her say, oh yeah, he said he hasn't told this story to girls, you know, he wouldn't tell this story to girls until a few months, she perks up and says, wait a minute, pause. It's the same wording. So Emily and Jakob. Emily gets straight to the chase and is like, so I was in the pods and one of the girls was talking about how some guy told her a story that he doesn't usually tell girls until many, many months in.
Okay. Okay. Go on.
Well, Carolina said that she met someone who told her something.
And I realized that that is the same wording that you said to me. It is so crazy because I thought I was the only girl that knew this. We both confessed our love to each other. And at this point, she is wondering, has he been double dipping? And we cut the first episode off onto episode 2. So Emily is like, I'm gonna be honest, I did not know you were talking to Carolina. I I was under the impression that I was the only girl you were saying this to. He lies. Jakob lies. It says he never told her she was his number one. I was like, baby, y'all need to stay away from this man. This man is not y'all's king. He sure isn't. He claims that yes, he and Carolina do have a relationship, but he never told her that she was his number one. And I was like, oh my God. I know this man ain't lying. So he tries to blame it on her, being like, well, it seems like you've already decided, though, that you're done with everything. So, I mean, I don't really know what to say anymore. She's like, I haven't decided anything. Carolina is the one that seems to have decided that it's the two of you guys, and I never knew that. And then they cut it off. So back in the pods, Emily realizes maybe Carolina is trying to scare the girls off. Maybe she's exaggerating. Jakob says, I am stuck in a love triangle. But Emily's the one trying to put all this blame on me, trying to make me basically pick her.
Lying, but she could be trying to scare us off. Who knows?
Hey guys, obviously, that's why she's acting this way. At the end of the day, you pick one person, so what do you feel now?
Shaming me for talking to other people, so I don't know what to do anymore. And the guys are like, did you tell her, though, that you have feelings for her? And he's like, yeah, I mean, I said that. And so even the other guys are like, okay, so that's confessing your love for her. Like, even the guys are picking up on Jakob's BS because this man is playing in everybody's face. Meanwhile, Nicholas is over there and he finds out that he and Karen live in the same neighborhood, so he feels like this is meant to be by God. Nicholas and Karen, they have their date. They start to joke about living so close together. Maybe they've even met before. And I just think it's funny the contrast between how these people react when we had Love is Blind US, where someone suspected someone followed someone on Instagram and nearly crashed out. So at this point, he confesses that he is basically completely on Karen. He is all in. Now, Karen, on the other hand, is a little more hesitant. She talks about how in previous relationships, it started off great. The guys made so many promises, but it turned out to be on false pretenses. The relationships would be one way in the beginning, and then they would really, really change in the end. And I don't know, girl, I hear where you're coming from. I could never be on Love is Blind because I am the same way and I need a chance to get to know you. But this is an accelerated marriage process. So I feel like you have to be able to get past those things if you're going to choose to be on this process. So once again, though, she does reassure him that she doesn't feel like he would be this way and that he is her strongest connection in the pods, but she is scared. So the next day, the silent battle for Jakob is still going on in the girls' pod, okay? Emily has not spoken with Carolina yet, but Jakob and Carolina, they have their date. So Carolina was very, very touched how he opened up last night. Jakob goes in and is like, I had so much trouble. I was awake all night with the guys, and I started to think, oh my God, what if I just leave and neither one of them ever hears from me again? And she's like, huh?
Ended up being really weird and uncomfortable because Emily and I got into this fight. Hello?
Now, he claims that he had told her in the past that she rose in the ratings, but that would mean that there was somebody else who was number one. See, this is the thing with Jakob. He talks in circles. He talks in a way where it's purposely confusing. Carolina's like, you didn't, but okay. He's like, okay. Anyway, he brushes by that. So he's like, look, I'm not gonna lie, I got into a fight with Emily last night, and all I wanted to tell her was that I found my wife. I'm completely on you. So in this moment, Jakob supposedly professes that he is completely on Carolina. Now, I personally think Jakob doesn't like Emily because he thinks Emily is confrontational, because Emily was willing to confront him in a way where I think Carolina is much more passive and she's kind of willing to go with the flow with whatever guy she picks. So I think at least in the interim, that's what Jakob was believing, and that's why he decided he was going to make that choice in the moment. So Carolina runs back to the pods and tells all the girls in front of everyone that she and Jakob are officially on each other. They have both decided that they are going to end it with everyone that they are talking to. And of course, Emily is sitting right there like, huh? So Emily pulls one of the girls aside to talk, and she is super confused. The other girl's like, does she Like, have you talked with Carolina? Does she know that Jakob is saying the exact same thing to both of you guys? Because I think you should be pulling her over. At this point, he's saying the same thing to both of them, and they're putting it together. So Carolina and Emily finally have the chat.
Well, then, who is it?
Me and Jakob. We've decided to end it with everyone else.
What?
Theron says to me, I've chosen to say this to you specifically.
So he never said that he told any other...
Dun, dun, dun. So they are both not surprised they were dating the same guy. It obviously became clear when they started to compare the things that were being said. Now, Emily talks about how they both affirmed each other and they had great chemistry. She actually reveals that she had heard Jakob's story the day before he told Carolina. And Carolina's like, hold up, what? I thought I was the only girl that knew that story. And she's like, oh no, I knew that story already. And Carolina's like, huh? And so it gets to a point now where Carolina's like, okay, I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna let a man play with me. I'm not gonna let a man do this to me. I will leave as fast as he got me. And Carolina's one of those people where I can tell she's easily misted. You could tell by the way she is sobbing in the pods every time Jakob talks. I'm just like, girl, no, you ain't. No, you ain't. So Jakob goes to Emily he's supposed to have a date with Emily. Before the date, he's in the pod saying that he's going to talk to Emily, let her know, good luck, but I am totally on Carolina. Emily, is standing outside the door and she's opening the door. She's about to go in the pod. Then she closes it and she just leaves. And we get a confessional from her. She doesn't even go to the date with Jakob. And she's like, look, I didn't find my husband here. It was not worth it, but I am so glad that I didn't let a man treat me badly. I stood up for myself. I stayed strong for me. And you know what? I feel like it's worth it. Jakob is one of those people that just talks and talks and talks and talks. And who even knows? I feel like had that date happened, Jakob would have changed his tune again and lied. And I just feel like it's not worth it. I think that Emily could sniff BS and there's no need to keep on going with that in my personal opinion. So anyways, on to Nicholas and Karen. It is gifts. He gets her a Polaroid camera and a photo album. He says this is for all the adventures they are about to have together. He also gets her his sweater because they can't really meet at this moment. Now, Karen is very honest that she was pretty insecure after the last conversation they had because she was unsure if he wanted to move forward with her or anyone. Because again, remember, this man had like 5-6 people. His list was still humongous just a couple of days prior. So he starts to talk about this letter that his mom wrote him before he got here, and she said to read it when he gets here. And basically in the note, his mom said that he had a pain in his chest when he was little, and his mom described that as him falling in love for the first time. So now he tries to say, I have that same pain in my chest that I had that first time. So I know it's love with you, Karen. I know it's meant to be. Again, Niklas' name is huge on the notepad with Jakob right now. Something about him, it's not giving genuine. It's giving, I read a lot of books. I watched a lot of Nicholas Sparks movies before I got here. It's just not giving. So anyways, Natalie and Victor, they have a date. Victor talks about how he lived in the US when he was younger with his family. So he has all these different experiences. Now she wants to open up about something with Victor, but then she starts to act a little weird.
And I really want to open up to you, but God, it's just so hard for me to express myself. She starts to cry. She starts to shake. It's like she can't really get out what she wants to say. And after a certain point, she's like, I don't know. I'm just tired. Like, I can't really do this today. And she storms out of the pod. She goes back to the girls' part and she starts crying, talking about how she was so excited for their date today, but for some reason, she just couldn't open up to him. She feels like everything was ruined. And I was a little bit confused. I was like, I get it. I know that sometimes things can get overwhelming, but you definitely need to be able to talk about these deeper subjects in order to get closer. And Victor also tells her that in the pause, if we're going to be together, you have to be able to have these conversations. Obviously, this is very different. It's an accelerated process. He is a stranger. But again, I do think it takes a certain level of spontaneity and being a bit of an oversharer to do this process. If it takes you time to open up, it's probably not suited very well for you. So
Victor, he talks about how Natalie was rated really high for him originally, but then things got weird in the pods and now he's not 100% sure where she's at anymore. So Jakob and Carolina walks in claiming she is ready to confront Jakob. And I'm like, girl, I know by the end of this scene, you're gonna be back with him.
I was the only one you told this to
Yes.
in here. So
Can I explain?
let me finish talking.
So she explains yesterday that she walked out feeling over the moon, but that feeling only lasted about 10 or 15 minutes. She was under the impression that she was the only one that knew the story. He tries to cut in and say, can I explain? She's like, let me finish talking. For her, finding out that he had shared the same story with Emily made her realize that he has been double dipping the entire time. So after now finally he talks and says, look, after I told Emily those personal things, it felt so wrong. I knew that she wasn't the one for me. He starts talking about, I'm shaking from fear. I'm shaking. And she's like, what? He's like, I'm shaking because I'm so afraid to lose you. He's like, I'm going to be honest. I wasn't expecting this to happen today. I was so excited to read the letter I wrote you. So he reads this letter where he talks about how she's amazing. She's the stars in the sky. She's beautiful. He'll always celebrate her birthday. And oh, Lord. Carolina falls back into his arms. Carolina's like, I needed to hear this. I really needed to hear this from you. So I'm so glad. And finally, they agree that they are officially on each other. And once again, as I could have predicted, and probably any of y'all that watched this, I knew they were going to come out of the pods together. So Nicholas and Karen, he proposes and she says yes. Now, Natalie and Victor, they have another date. Obviously, this is coming off of the very strange situation that happened with Natalie. I think it was maybe like a mini panic attack. She explains that after the date, she felt super, super tired, but she just realized that she has not been keeping up with checking in on herself. I'm like, okay, I hear you, but it's still a little off, girl. She talks about how she was excited for the date, but she was really overwhelmed. For him, he's not angry, but he just felt pretty much powerless when the situation happened. He didn't really know what to do, but he still does want to get to know her. And they jump into a conversation about traveling and they have so many things in common. And this date definitely goes way better than the date that they had yesterday. So Karen and Nicholas, they had their reveal. They're both talking about in the confessional beforehand that they're wondering if they actually do know each other since they supposedly live only 200 meters away from each other. Now, when they come out, they both seem super impressed with each other. They both can't stop blushing. They're like, oh my God.
So have we met before?
I don't know. I have
don't
no
know
idea.
either. We might have seen each other.
Yeah, you live
That's
like
cool.
200 meters.
They're both very, very into each other seemingly. So I think the physical attraction is there. Karen does ask, so do you think we met? And they both can't decide or remember if they've actually met or not. I mean, hey, they've probably seen each other in the neighborhood, at the grocery store, at the farmer's market. I don't know, but if y'all don't care, then I guess it doesn't matter. But the physical attraction is definitely there. They're both just so in shock that the person on the other side of the wall is real. And I noticed when they walked away after the reveal, they both looked back. And whenever they look back at those reveals, that's always a good sign. So Alicia, at this point, she is between Tim and Oscar. Now, Tim is more peppy and silly. He is more free-spirited. So Tim and Alicia have their date, and Alicia does open up and say that she was worried in the beginning if what they were building was enough to kind of overcome the physical hurdles. What if they're not attracted to each other? Would they still like each other despite not having that initial physical attraction? But for her, that has now gone away, and she feels that she's ready no matter what. Now, Tim is like, I'm gonna keep it real with you. That's not where I'm at. He's like, I do not agree, actually. For him, he says that the real test begins when they live together. He had me there. I agreed with him there. But he continues to say that he feels that the wedding proposal is basically fake. And it's just something that they're kind of doing per se, but it's not really something that is actually real. So at this point, Alicia's like, this makes me very worried because you are clearly only thinking about the short term. You're taking this more of the social experiment route. If you're watching Married at First Sight, US season with Juan, who took it as a social experiment, you see how he's crashing out on the internet now. Again, red flag, red flag. Because if you come into the experiment, you should be giving it your all. What do you mean you're just testing it out? I just feel like saying something like that is suspect. Okay. Now, she says personally she would not feel safety walking out with someone who just says, let's see. And again, that's what I said about Tim. It doesn't give that he's very decisive. It gives that he's just kind of playing around. He's just going with the flow with things. And I feel like that is not necessarily a mark of somebody who's going to be a good partner, especially in a process like this. Because at the end of the day, if you're delulu enough to come on this process, you need to be taking it very seriously. And I don't think he is. So Alicia goes on to her other date, which is Oscar. Now, Oscar admits that Alicia is his number one. He has let everyone know at this point he is very sure and very secure. He says, unlike all the other guys, unlike all the other people that are anxious about where they're at, he knows what he wants. He is really, really curious at this point about what life is going to be like when they get out of here. And that's all he could think of. What is she going to be like as a mother? What is she going to be like as a wife? So for Oscar, he knows what he wants. And of course, Alicia is cheesing ear to ear. It is a polar opposite in terms of the stability and the reassurance there than she's getting from Tim. So Ola, meanwhile, is in the pods having a nervous breakdown. This man is like on the floor shaking.
And she seems very calm and at peace with life just by being herself. The last time we spoke about diet.
Crying. He says that he thought he was on the same page with Millie this whole time, but the talk about the diet has triggered him. And for him, he realizes that he has a certain structure that he likes in his life. He's not sure if Millie's there. Again, I feel like this man started to get worried that she was fat. I'm going to keep it a stack. He got really worried that she was not the size he was going to want. Mark my words. So Tim and Millie. He starts going on some gobbledy nonsense about how he went on a total release earlier. He let go of a lot of repressed emotions. Millie's like, okay, what does that mean? He says he's really ready to confront these feelings. He doesn't want restriction in his life. He starts to blabber about how he feels so present now. Millie is like, okay, what are we talking about? And again, this is what these kind of manipulative weirdos do. They just talk in circles in a way where the words they say makes no sense. So Millie's like, okay, but where are we coming from? Like, let's be so for real. Now he realizes that his life is not normal and he's a bit out there. And she, at this point, Millie is like, I don't know, man. I'm a bit curious if we are too different. I mean, it's just very abstract. Even going into this conversation, Ola never says, oh my God, the conversation about our lifestyles regarding the gym and eating was what triggered me. He just goes in and says a bunch of nonsense and then heads out. And it's like, everyone's left to interpret that. And I feel like that's going to be a sign for how your relationship will be, that you'll always be sitting here interpreting what he's trying to say rather than him just getting straight to the point. Now, for him, he says he has decided, though, that he's still going to date her. He is all in. And though Millie says something in her gut tells her to keep seeing him, she is back at the pods wondering why he is so serious all the time. All he did was talk about himself. That is very true. As I said, a lot of people on these spiritual journeys, they have a lot to say about their journey and what they found and their shadow work, but they have no room to care and integrate other people in. For her, she also realizes their conversation did not grow at all. They didn't move any further. And for her, at this point, it is definitely important to foster some of the other connections she has in the pods. So Millie and Oscar. And remember, Oscar's with Alicia, and Alicia's all in because Tim ain't giving it. So let's see. So Oscar realizes that he messed up the first date by telling too many jokes, and he is super surprised that Millie actually would like to talk again. He realizes that he should have kept talking to her even after he messed up. And now this time he wants to be more serious on the date and show that he's not a jokester the way that she originally thought. So for him, physical touch is crucial. Laying next to his partner, cuddling with her. He's describing all the things that he loves. For him, that is the mark and the testament of the closeness in a relationship. And they are both flustered with one another. Millie really loves that. I don't know with these two, it's kind of giving a bit of a personality mismatch to me. I do think on the surface there's things they like, but I don't know. I just get a certain vibe off Oscar that I feel like Millie would find very irritating, as she already did in that first date. So in the pods, Millie claims now she is only focusing on Oscar, and Oscar says that he has also changed his mind on who's his top. And straight up admits that it is Millie. And I'm like, wait, where's Alicia? Anyway, Jakob and Carolina. Jakob is so nervous right now. He's about to throw up from anxiety. But overall, he proposes and Carolina says yes. Let's go into their reveal. So he mentions that the physical connection does need to be there, but he's also worried if she will find him physically attractive. Now for her, physical attraction is an important marker. She's usually into the tall, dark, and handsome. They open up the pod doors and they see each other and they're both just standing there.
When the doors open, I want her to run right to me. She told me she's gonna do that. And when she does run...
And then it ends on a cliffhanger. Now, I'm gonna keep it real with you. I didn't see either one of them liking each other. I don't think either one of them is gonna be attracted to the other, personally speaking. But we're gonna have to see in the next episode. So if you made it to this point in the video, that means you liked the video. So I would greatly appreciate it if you would support the channel by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. It helps to get the videos out there and it inspires me to keep creating. Thank you guys so much for watching. Please don't put spoilers. The episode 3 and 4 video should be out by Tuesday. Let me say that because I'm also doing Temptation Island on the channel. So go check those videos out if you're interested. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Bye.